Okay, this is Chapter 10, Quadratic Equations on the Algebra Review, and this is number 8. They want us to solve this. This would have been a real simple one to solve had they already set it equal to 0, but they didn't. So what I'm going to have to do is simplify the left side, move the 2 over to the left side, so I'll have a 0 on the right side. Then I can figure out how to solve this. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is simplify the left side. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute or FOIL it out. X times x is x squared. X times negative 4 is negative 4x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And negative 3 times negative 4 is a positive 12, and that's equal to 2. But I need to move the 2 over now, so I'm going to subtract it from both sides. And that leaves me a 0 on the right side. So now I have x squared. Now negative 4x minus 3x would be negative 7x, and 12 minus 2 would be a positive 10. This is good because this one factors, and that's good. It means this is an easy one to factor, and it goes a lot faster than if I had to do the quadratic formula. I could put an x here and an x here, and I could say, what do I multiply to get 10 that adds to get negative 7? And again, if you need that little organizer, don't forget, we're multiplying to get the number on the end, 10, and the only reason it's just that number is there's no number in front of the x squared other than 1. And I'm trying to add to get negative 7, and if you think about it, the numbers that would work would be negative 2 times negative 5 is positive 10, and negative 2 plus negative 5 is negative 7. So I'm just going to put them here. That was easy enough to do, so now to solve it, all I have to do is take each factor and set it equal to 0. So there's one of them, and here's the other one. These are easy even to solve because you just add 2 on both sides here and get x equal 2. And over here I can add 5 to both sides because I'm just trying to get the x by itself, remember. X equal 5, so my solutions are 2 and 5. And remember, a lot of times they'll write their solution in these fancy parentheses here. So that does not mean the 0.25. It means I'm going to list my solutions in these fancy brackets, and the two solutions are 2 and 5. Number 9 also is one of those problems where we're going to have to do a lot of simplifying and move all the terms to the left side before we can solve it. One thing I could do here, x plus 5 squared is not x squared plus 25. A lot of people want to think it is, but that's not what it is. That 2 up there means there's 2 copies of that. So I wrote the 2 copies down because I'm going to have to distribute that out. X times x is x squared. X times 5 is 5x. And then if I distribute the other one, 5 times x is another 5x. And 5 times 5 is 25. And that is equal to x plus 17. But I need a 0 on that side, so I'm going to have to move those 2 terms over. Before I do that, let me go ahead and simplify the left-hand side. 5x and 5x is 10x. And then I have a 25. And that's equal to x plus 17. But since I want a 0 so I can solve it, because I have to have a 0 over there if I want to solve it, I'm going to move these terms to the other side. I have a plus x, so I'll subtract x from both sides. I'm going to line these up with their like terms. And then I have that would add up to 0. And then I have a plus 17, so I want a minus 17. That's going to combine with the 25 over there. So I end up with my 0 that I need, but when I do all this math over there, 10x minus an x is 9x. It is not 10, guys. These are like terms. You can put the invisible 1 in front of the x. I have 10 x's and somebody takes 1 x away from me. I have 9 x's left. 25 minus 17 is 8. Again, this one's a nice problem to solve because it factors easily, and I love to solve these with factoring when they're easy. I would get my x squared with the x and an x, and if you think about it, I'm going to go ahead and put the organizer over here for those of you who want to see what I'm saying. I need to multiply to get the 8, the number on the end, and the only reason I don't multiply by the number out front is it's a 1. I could say 1 times 8 is 8, but I'm trying to add to get the middle number, which is 9. Well, 8 times 1 is 9. 8 times 1 is 8, and 8 plus 1 is 9. So that's what I need. It's positive numbers, so it's x plus 8, x plus 1, To solve, I take each of those factors and set them equal to 0. Okay, so I just need to solve each one individually. So one of my answers is x equal negative 8. Another answer, if I subtract 1 from both sides, is x equal negative 1. And remember that you may see it written sometimes like this in these fancy brackets. That's saying I'm making a list of answers and usually put them in order smallest to greatest. So it would be negative 8 and negative 1 like that. All right, this is the last problem on the quadratic formula part of the algebra review, quadratic equations. There's another part of the algebra review, but we'll save it for another time. All right, I can't solve this one either because they didn't have all the terms on one side with 0 by itself, so I need to do that. This is 5 times x squared minus 1 equal 2x. So all I got to do is distribute on the left-hand side. 5 times x squared is 5x squared, and 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. But I need to move this 2x over there, so I'll subtract it. Now, I'm going to write it kind of here. It doesn't combine with anything. Don't try to put it with the x squared. Yes, there are x's, but remember, the exponents also have to match, so those are not like terms. I also cannot stick it with the 5. The 5 doesn't have an x and the 2 does, so they're not like terms. So all I can do is write it like this. 5x squared minus 2x minus 5 is equal to 0. Now, I don't think this one's going to, I know this one's not going to factor, and the reason I do is if I try to think, okay, I'm going to do the factoring by grouping thing, if I multiply the number out front times the number on the end, 5 times negative 5 is negative 25, and then I'm trying to add to get the negative 2 in the middle, so I'm trying to add to get negative 2, multiply to get negative 25. The only way to get 25 is 1 times 25 or 5 times 5. There is no way you're going to get that out of there. So this has to be done with the quadratic formula. Okay, so since I need the quadratic formula, I'm going to write it down here. X equal negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. That's a minus, even though it looks like a dot. You're going to have to, remember, you have to listen on the videos, all over 2a. So now I'm going to write it with the parentheses for every variable just so I can make sure I get everything in right and deal with it correctly, because that's where most people make their mistakes. Okay? All right, now my a here is the number out in front of my x squared, so it's going to go here and here. My b here is the number in front of the x, so it's going to be negative 2, and it goes here and it goes here. And then my c here is going to be negative 5. Don't forget the sign on it, okay? So if I simplify this, I'll go to the top here and try to fit this in here. It's going to be x equal 2 plus or minus the square root. Negative 2 squared is 4, minus 4 times 5 is 20, and 20 times negative 5 is negative 100, all over 10. So I need to simplify this. That's 2 plus or minus 4 minus 100. 2 minuses side by side become pluses, so that's 4 plus 100, so that's going to be the square root of 104. And that's all over 10. Now, I can divide, let's see, if I wanted to simplify that radical, I know that 104, 4 divides into that. Let me go ahead and just see what I get here. 4 goes into 10 2 times. That's 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. You'd have 24, and so 4 goes into 24 6 times over 10. So if I want to simplify this, it's 2 plus or minus. Now I can take the square root of 4 out of the radical. Square root of 4 is 2, so I write it out front. And then I have 26 left inside, and that's all over 10. So if I want my answers, I'm going to write in a different color just because I'm starting to run into my work from a while ago. I'm going to write in green just so it'll stick out. Remember, I can separate the fractions. 2 over 10 plus or minus 2 over 10 square root of 26. Well, that's going to reduce 2 goes into 2 one time, 2 goes into 10 5 times. It's going to be a fifth plus or minus. We have another a fifth here. I'm just going to write that though as 20 square root of 26 over 5. And that would be my answer for number 10.